Hi everybody, this is Kristen from A Voice and a View, and I hope you're having a great time with your families out there, enjoying the last few days. I'm sure you're eating lots and enjoying yourself. Me, it's pretty low-key this year and just kind of bumming it and hanging out. But today's healing lesson is called Living from Your Heart Space. And as we see the world changing out there with everyone and everything, it's so important to stay in your heart space. No matter what's going on around you in your outside world or within your own space, it's so important to stay in a loving energy. And as you go through this process of healing with opening your chakras, balancing them out, doing your shadow work, healing your inner child, being in nature, and all of these things that I talk about to help heal yourself from the inside out. A big part of this process is staying in a loving energy. No matter what, no matter what's, been done to you, no matter what you're dealing with. And part of that is controlling your emotions. And this is a hard thing to do. Here's myself, I used to be triggered a lot, and good reason. But I have overcome a lot of that, and I don't get triggered very much anymore. With certain situations I do, but I don't, go off the deep end like I used to. But as you heal that inner child and heal those wounds that you've, dealt with for so many years, you lose a lot of your triggers. But that doesn't mean that other people in the outside world have lost theirs. And the problems that they're dealing with, they will project onto you. And instead of acting out in a revengeful way, or having a certain comment that might make the situation worse, try to stay in a loving energy. Try not to let it bother you. Look the other way. And this is very hard to do, guys. Because people are going to know your triggers. Especially, if there's certain people in your lives that know what can upset you and can send you over the edge. But that's also a mirror to you on what you need to work on. Okay, what is bothering you? What is festering inside you? And that will make you look at yourself to see what is happening within you that is causing you to be triggered. Okay, because we are a mirror to each other. But it's so important to stay loving, especially at this time when there's so much chaos and there's all of these events unfolding around you and in the outside world. All of this revealing, because we are in Revelations. And the more you can stay grounded, the more you can stay unbothered, the more you can just let it go. Let all those things that trigger you go. Just let them go. And, that doesn't mean that you don't stick up for yourself. It just means that do it in a respectful way. And the more you can stay centered within yourself, the more you can be unbothered by all of the chaos in the world and in your world, the easier this process is going to be for you. And it's not easy, guys, because I've done it. Although, all those people that used to trigger me or try to embarrass me or humiliate me, believe me, I could have had a few choice words, but a lot of it I just let go because I know God handles it. I just let it go. And if you need to stick up for yourself, don't be hollering and carrying on, because I've done that as well, which causes things to be worse. But do it in a respectful way. Stick up for yourself, say something, but you don't have to be nasty about it. When you're screaming and angry and fighting with others and projecting your problems onto them or reacting from an angry space, you can make the situation a lot worse instead of handling it accordingly. And that not only helps, it might help resolve the situation in a good way, but it also gives you a little self-respect, by standing up for yourself. You can resolve a lot of the things in your life by not reacting, by not being triggered, and taking on those projections that other people have over you, or what they're dealing with, and them projecting them onto you, their problems onto you. Because you don't need to take all of that. You don't need to take on other people's drama and chaos and turn your life upside down and make you angry and stay in all of those negative energies. You're your own person. Be authentic. Respect yourself, but stay in a loving energy. And don't react to all these things going on around you so it doesn't domino effect onto others. Being in a loving energy can be very difficult and challenging, to say the least, sometimes. But treat others the way you want to be treated, because we are mirrors. We are reflections to the outside world, to others. What's going on in our own lives is being mirrored back to us. So the more you stay in a loving energy, the more you'll see change in the outside world. And it will help you control your behaviors within yourself. And I hope you try to do this all the time, but if you're in a really challenging situation and you need to control your triggers and behaviors, you know, just think to yourself, I don't want to make this worse. I don't want to cause a domino effect. You know, I don't want to be that other person's anger and problems that they're trying to project outward. Because whatever they're projecting out is how they feel about themselves. And it has nothing to do with you. You know, a lot of the times they're projecting out exactly how they feel about themselves, about what they've dealt with, and they're kind of in a blame mode, trying to blame you for, you know, how they feel inside. But the more you can stay in a loving energy, you'd be surprised on how many people will change their view about who you are when you stay in a loving energy and don't react to other people triggering you. It's a very hard, or it can be very hard sometimes. But sometimes people just need that love. Sometimes they need you to not react. They just want to be heard. They want, or they didn't get that loving energy from someone else. You know, maybe it was from their childhood, or, you know, from whatever happened in their lives, whenever. But maybe they didn't get respect. Maybe they didn't get seen by their families. Maybe they weren't loved in the way they should have been loved. You know, it could be anything. But when somebody's angry, there's a reason for it. There's something that they haven't healed within themselves, and they're projecting out onto others. So the more you can stay in that loving space, and, you know, no matter how hard it is sometimes, guys, if you can do that, if you can stay in that loving energy, it's not only not going to make the situation worse, okay, but eventually that person might see you in a different way. You know, it might take a while, but they might start looking inward instead of outward, or projecting outward to someone else about how they feel. You know, it might make them take a good look at themselves. You know, why they're so angry. But sometimes people they're just mad because things aren't going their way, or they're dealing with a lot in their lives, and they like to project because it makes them feel better, or makes them feel more powerful, or it might make them feel like they're in the control. But the more you can just let it go, the more you can be still and not focus so much on what others are doing and saying. And they might be saying it against you. Ignore it. The more you can stay grounded within yourself and not let others' anger and projection, triggers, control, their wounds be projected onto you so that you get triggered, because sometimes they just want a response. They just want to, some people actually feel better about making you upset. Some people love chaos energy, guys. They want your reaction. They want to see what you're going to say. They want to see what you're going to do. Some people love that energy. Some thrive in it. But the more you can stay peaceful within yourself, and I talk about that video game, guys, and looking at everything like a video game. All these arrows are being sent your way, trying to upset you, trying to throw you off balance, trying to keep you in fear, trying to keep you upset, because all of those energies keep you at a low frequency, a low vibration. And that's what they want. They want you to stay stuck. And I talk about the masks, that people wear masks. And there might be some people in your world that are doing this on purpose to keep you at a low frequency. Because on the lower energies, you are in the devil energy. You're in the lack. You're not gaining abundance in that energy. Okay? But think of it like a game to where you need to get out of the lower chakras and move into the abundance chakras. And you have to go through all of these tests to move forward into the upper chakras. So so that you will move out of that negative energy and move up through the positive to gain abundance. Just to stay in that loving energy, to move through, to get to that loving energy that attracts abundance to you, instead of this going through struggle energy. Okay, but think of it like a video game. Everyone might be trying to trigger you. You might be stuck in traffic and somebody's yelling at you. Somebody comes out of nowhere and tries to upset you. It could be anything. But think of it like a test. Stay in the loving energy as much as possible. Every time something happens, think to yourself, I have to stay calm. What can I say to make this situation better? How can I resolve it? Maybe something happened to that person that day, and maybe they were in very hurt energy and they wanted somebody to take it out on. But depending on how you react to whatever happened to that person, you might be able to change that person's world just by the way you handle that situation. Maybe they just want to be heard because nobody listens to them. Maybe they had a family member pass away and they're angry. Whatever the situation is, sometimes people just need an ear, even if it's angry talk. Ask them if they're okay. What's going on in their world? How can you make it better? And I mean, it's not every situation that you can do this with, but when you react out of triggers, that takes you out of the high frequencies, takes you out of abundant energy. And the more you can just let everything go, even though, you got to understand, you still need to stick up for yourself, respect yourself. You have a voice and an opinion, and it's important. Everybody's opinion is important. But you don't have to go off the deep end and make the situation worse, because that will cause a ripple effect around you. Resolve the situation accordingly. And you never know if you can change that person's day just by what comes out of your mouth, by reacting in the opposite energy instead of such a negative energy. So stay in that loving space as much as possible, especially now because of, the holidays. And there's a lot of people having a hard year. And I know, like I said yesterday, that I don't believe in religion anymore, even though I grew up Catholic. Because through my experiences, my views have changed. And I know what God is, because I've experienced it for myself and what God has shown me. But everybody has different views. Everybody has different opinions. And this time is a very challenging time for a lot of people right now. Financially, with their families, it could be anything. But the more you can just let it go, be still. Just let it go as much as possible. And stay in that loving energy. And who knows? Somebody might get angry with you, and what comes out of your mouth could either really help that person or really hurt them and make the situation worse. And depending on what you do, that might really bring you on a low frequency, or it could raise you a lot higher. You could stay stuck in the lower energies, in the negative energies. But the more you practice this, the more it's going to raise your frequency. The more it's going to send you into abundance, into the loving energies, where we don't force, we attract abundance. And you will start moving out of that struggle energy, the fear energy, the control energy, all the negative lower chakra energies. But let me tell you guys, sometimes you're just gonna want to say something so bad. I've been there. But this will strengthen you. It'll help you be strong. It'll help you learn strength to get through these challenging situations, to see how you're going to handle it. Tests. Are you gonna move up or down? Are you gonna pass that level? Because you're being tested a lot. Oh, look at the outside light came on. Thank you, Spirit. Now you can see me better. But everything in your life and the people in your lives. Look at everything and everyone as a test, as a challenge, as part of a game. Because all of these things happening around you, that's what they are. They're tests and they're challenges, and to see if you can pass them and move up. If you're going to level up and pass through to the next level. You know, this isn't just all there is, guys. This, you know, everything happening around you. There's other frequencies that you can attain, whether you believe it or not, because I have. I've seen it, I've experienced it, and my whole world has changed because of, you know, the things that I try to talk to you about here and explain to you and try to teach you. And it all starts with healing yourself from the inside out. Because anything you can do to stay in that loving space, that helpful space towards others, will help you move up. So I hope I've explained this well, guys. And this isn't an easy process, like I've said many, many times. It's very challenging. But everyone in your world is trying to teach you something and everything. Look at everything that's happening in your lives and evaluate everything. And when there's a challenging situation that comes up, and it could just come out of the blue to surprise you when you're not expecting it. Because the universe, the spirit, God, whatever you want to call God, is going to challenge you. It's going to see how much you can take. Is going to see what you're going to do, how you're going to handle that situation to pass the test. And if you don't pass the test, it's going to happen over and over and over and over again until you do. So, again, try to stay in that loving energy, no matter what's happening around you, no matter who's trying to trigger you, and no matter what surprises come your way. Everything is there to teach you something. And the more you heal yourself, the more you heal all the trauma and childhood wounds and all those situations that have made you you, the more you heal all of that inner conflict, the more your outside world is going to change for the better. And the more tests you're going to pass, and the less triggered you will be, and the less harm you will cause others, and the less projection you will put out there to others. The last thing we want to do right now is to cause more of a domino effect onto other people, because so many are dealing with so much, and a lot of them are at their breaking points. So one little thing that you say that comes out of your mouth might just be what causes that other person to break, guys. And instead of that situation, turn it around and, you know, don't look at the anger. Look at how you can help the situation. Look at how you can make that person's day a little better and brighter. You know, maybe they're lonely and they're angry. Who knows? But every day you have a chance to make someone's day. You know, give them a smile. Even if they're angry, guys, try to smile. They might not have anyone in their lives. Could be anything. But every day you have a choice. And what choices are you going to make to help yourself? Not only to help others, but mainly to help yourself. And love yourself. Everything you can do every day is about finding yourself, loving yourself, because you come first. Because you can't help others unless you help yourself. You can't love others if you don't love yourself. And when you heal and get all of those layers off of you, of trauma, all those layers of trauma off of you, you're going to heal yourself a little bit at a time. And you're going to start seeing a difference in how you act, how you react, and how you start to be portrayed to others. And your world is going to start changing for the better. And when you're in that space, that loving space, with God in your heart chakra, you're gonna start changing your world and the world of others. And this process is all about healing. Healing to go higher and upward instead of down. Instead of going backwards and causing a domino effect in the opposite energy, in the opposite direction. So that's it for tonight, guys. It's getting dark, and I'm glad that light came on, because I would have had to end this video a little bit early, but just try to stay in that loving space as much as possible. You know, help others. Do what you can to help. You know, help someone in any way you can, and, you know, so many are hurting out there, and some don't want to ask for help, but they need it. You know, especially the elderly. But anything you can do for others, well, not just for others, but for yourself. Heal yourself in any way you can. So important right now. Okay, guys, that's it. And this is Kristen from A Voice and a View, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. Peace, love, and light, guys. Love you all. Bye.